to the HDG Stories podcast, where we'll share our threads of memories, knowledge, experience, and history, knitting all generations into a beautiful tapestry. So please like and share, and be sure to subscribe. Now let's get started.
Charlie Mike's mother, Kay, was one of the first people I met when I moved here in 1997. In this excerpt from our June 14, 2016 interview, Charlie introduces us to his parents. He shares a great moment about Jackie Kennedy and talks about fishing, the State Theater, ice skating, and moving the first nuclear reactors to Peach Bottom in the late 60s. Welcome, Charlie.
I'm Charlie Mike, and I was born January 3rd, 1954 at Hartford Memorial Hospital in Havre de Grace here. My parents were John and Kay Mike. They're both transplanted Pennsylvanians. They moved down here. My dad came as a Lebanese descent. He came from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, and he was working at the Proving Ground. That's what got him down here. My mom came from a little Pennsylvania Dutch town, Wilmelsdorf, Pennsylvania. Little town halfway between Reading and Mannheim. And she ventured out into the world. She was a single child. My dad came from a big family. He had 8 brothers and sisters. My mom was a single child, and she ventured out into the world, come down to work at the Proving Ground also. Eventually they met and courted and got married, and I guess around 1950s when they were married, 49 I think it was. And then they first lived in Aberdeen before 1953, buying our house at 524 South Washington Street in Havre de Grace. It's a great old Victorian home right behind the hospital. The house was built in probably late 1800s, early 1900s. Beautiful, beautiful home. Right on the corner. The thing I remember about that house was we had a Japanese cherry blossom in the back. That was the prettiest tree in Havre de Grace. The ones that are in front of Foley House and Union Avenue are nice, but this tree was twice as big. And
oh my!
It was beautiful. Quick story about that tree. Back during the early, and I guess it was 62 or 63, when Kennedy was prepping to run for president again, he was coming down, JFK, he was coming down on a train from Philadelphia, doing some campaign stops, and somebody in his campaign party got gravely sick, so they stopped at Havre de Grace. Havre de Grace had a little station at that time, and they brought him to Hartford Memorial Hospital. And this is in the spring. Mother happened to be outside hanging up the laundry. Jacqueline Kennedy was out walking with a couple aides, right, because the emergency room was right in our backyard, right behind our house. And she saw that tree and thought it was beautiful. Came over, and there's a hedge down at Lewis Street separating the side yard from the backyard. And she came over and called over my mother, said, you mind if we come in and look at your tree? And she said, come on in. And my mother looked and recognized her right away. And so Jacqueline Kennedy came in our yard, and they took some pictures of the trees and talked to my mom for a couple minutes. Pretty neat.
It definitely is pretty neat.
I have 5 brothers and sisters. There's 3 boys and 3 girls. And we all look just like my dad. Nobody looked like my mom. She'd take us to the grocery store. She'd tell me, well, I swear they're my kids. My mother was, blondish hair, hazel eyes, fair skin. My dad was dark complexion with dark eyes and dark skin, dark hair. And we all came out spitting images of him. But that was always funny when she would try to, someone would say, these are your kids? Oh, yeah, they're my kids. That's even funnier now. My youngest sister, Beth, she's married to a redhead. She has 3 boys, young men now, and all 3 of those boys have red hair. None of them look like Beth, so Beth knows just how my mom feels now. And my mom and dad both hooked on the Havre de Grace right away when they moved here. My dad was met up with some of the other Middle East descent people here. Dr. Hayden. The Hayden family was probably the best friends my family had. He was Lebanese. His parents were Lebanese. His parents had a little store up on Franklin and Stoke Street. People will remember. Dr. Hirsch wasn't Lebanese, but he had some Syrian descent in his family. Dr. Simon lived, is now the Spencer Silver mansion up on Union Avenue. That was the Simon house. He was Lebanese, and somehow these guys all clicked together. Tommy Abrams from over in Aberdeen had Abrams Dodge, and later was instrumental in starting Ashley, married to May Abrams, who started Ashley, Father Martin's Ashley. He was another Lebanese brother of my dad's. And they all sort of hooked together and hung around together. My mom was involved, got involved locally, seemed like right off the bat with various organizations, and time for her to go to work after all the kids were school age. She met Mr. Winter, Henry Winter, who was the publisher and owner of the record, and I don't know what year that was. It was probably early 60s. She started working for the Record. Started doing, and when you worked in a small paper like that, you did everything. But her niche, she did obituaries, she did columns, she did that. And then Mr. Winter, Dr. Winter, he was a chiropractor. He, I guess, saw her personality and everything. He said, you need to be in advertising. So he put her in charge of going around and soliciting for ads and putting, ads in the paper. So that's where she really got involved with the business community of Havre de Grace when everyone got to know K. Mike. All of us kids soon to be known as the Mike kids, or that's K. Mike's son. I always tease everyone, my name's not Charlie Mike, my name's K. Mike's son. And she got real involved in that, and she stayed with the paper probably right up till early 80s probably when she left, and she still kept a hand in it with tidbits of information for whoever needed it down there. And then she moved over to volunteering at the Chamber of Commerce, which was not very much then. Alan Fair sort of pulled her into that and said, we need to build this up. And she got involved in that and really, again, started going around to the business community saying, we got to get a real chamber here in this town. This town's starting to grow. She helped start really the first tourism activity in Havre de Grace. Started promoting that through the chamber and started building up the chamber. And when the Lock House was just an idea, it wasn't even actual yet. And when the Lighthouse is still a nice place, but no one had cleaned it up yet, she gathering people together to help form these committees, which we have now. I don't know who talked her into it. Someone talked her into running for city council. So in the mid-'80s, she ran for city council and served 2 terms on the council as council president.
I didn't know that.
And when she was on the council, she was very helpful working with people like John Norvell and stuff and getting the promenade. The first section was built, but it's just a small section. But she was very helpful in soliciting funds and getting the grants to help finish off the promenade. Gunther Hirsch was mayor at the time. She served, I think, 85 to 89. She did 2 terms, and then she said that was enough. And she was pretty proud of that, and we were all proud of her for doing that.
What are your earliest memories?
Well, we grew up on Washington Street, in a big family, right behind the hospital. The hospital is the central point of Havre de Grace. All my childhood friends were all in that block, and a lot of them are still here in Havre de Grace.
What was childhood like then?
Oh, it was fun. I mean, he played the water, we'd go fishing and crab. And back then, we could catch crabs right in Havre de Grace. We'd catch bushel of crabs in 2 or 3 hours. And that was the reason then and not now is that the water's cleaner now. Back then, the water wasn't quite as clean because there weren't water treatment plants on the river going up to Susquehanna. All the little towns didn't have the water treatment plants, so water's a little bit dirtier. There's sewage in the water, and it wasn't as clean. It means it held the salt content better. And in the summertime, crabs love dirty water and
Really?
things to eat. Yeah, so the salt content. So in the summertime, there's always a competition who could get the best crabbing spots down at the park. Down to on the piers at the park. So we go down to the park, and the shoreline, like behind where the Promenade Grill is now, there was no Promenade Grill then. There was just a little, basically like an outdoor shed that was there that sold ice cream and stuff like that. But the shoreline was not bulkhead or anything. It was just rocks, all rocky shoreline going along. There was a big pier. There was a gas dock pier there. Not quite where the gas dock pier is now, a little bit more west than that. We wade into the shallows underneath that pier to catch the soft shells in the seagrass, and then off the pier we'd have all our lines laid out for catching crabs. So that was fun. At an early age, I guess I was about 12 years old, I started working at Penns Beach Marina, which is 2 blocks down Lewis Street from me. That's how I got into, I loved boating in the water, and so I got into boating, and I'm a big boater now. I've had a boat ever since then. Bought my first rowboat. I worked for all the owners at Penns Beach. So Mr. DeLuca and Sam Reeder bought it from him. Paul Berube and Jimmy Collier bought it. And then when Paul passed, Jimmy Collier took over. So I probably worked at Penns Beach from, say, 1966, even through high school and college. When I got out of college, I'd still help on the weekends and needed help. And that's when I got doctorated in boating. Yep. And Penns Beach grew. Sam Reeder really put money into it and built it. And I was involved with all that, helping them. We bulkheaded all the area and around there because it used to just be a couple old shabby piers. And he really had a good master plan and upgraded it. And suddenly he died. His head mechanic was a gentleman, Paul Berube. And Paul's a real character. But he knew the operation, and he had a partner, Jimmy Collier, from Collier's had automatic sales in Aberdeen, vending machine company. And at that time, vending machines were big. They had a little bit of money and became partners with Paul and to purchase it, and they continued to build Penns Beach into a pretty nice little marina. Couldn't rival Tidewater, of course. Tidewater was a much more affluent, big marina. Venice Beach was for the common man, the average guy.
Regular person,
And we could afford to go boating. The life in Havre de Grace was fun. It was simple. We played Little League in the summertime, winter times, sledding and snowball fights, running around. And everyone got along great. We had black friends, white friends. It didn't matter. We never really paid much mind to color. One black family lived down the street from us, who was in our group, was the Wares. Michael Ware, Charlie Ware, Bobby Ware. The whole the Ware family they must have been at least 8 kids in that family. And then the Harrises up on the other street, Bobby Harris. And I still see a lot of those guys to this day. And everyone, you get to talking about how the world is today, and say, why can't people be like what we were when we were kids? Just overlooked everything and you palled around. But on the dark side, I can remember when Reed's Drugstore in Havre de Grace had their separate bathroom. It wasn't that long ago. It was in the early 60s. Thought about that.
Did they also serve separately, or?
Yeah. When at the lunch counter, a separate section. But we'd go in there. We'd like to get their chocolate sodas, Coke with chocolate in it. If I went in there with Bobby Harris or Robert Ware, then they'd have to go to one end of the counter order, and I'd go to the other end. He didn't really understand it. When you're 10 and 12 years old.
But at the same time, it didn't really divide you guys. You just went in and
Same thing going to a movie theater. We had a movie theater in town. Same thing. They had to sit up on the balcony. We couldn't sit with them, or we'd go up there and sit with them. The State Theater. And that was a big Christmas tradition. Every year at Christmas, you'd go down there and they'd have a Christmas movie and go in there and get a bag of candy and an orange.
Where did you ice skate at?
We ice skated down in the park in between the piers. Make sure the ice is good enough. And then the hose company, Susquehanna Hose, with cold winters, they would set up on the parking lot down at the park. They would set up, they would take railroad ties and form a rink, and then they'd flood it, and let it freeze. And then, you go skating in there and play hockey in there and stuff like that. Because they didn't want kids going out on the water skating, although we still did. We always, skated all around the shoreline, all around. On the real cold winters, you could skate from down the back channel all the way down to Swan Creek and back. Skate down there. And you were chancy, but never did it alone. Did it with other kids, but something ever happened, I guess would have been a tragedy. We never, we always busted the ice, see how thick the ice was. Where the nursing home is? That used to be a big open field, and it would go down. The lower end of it would get swampy because you're going down in towards the water. But we had that field was our field. We made a baseball diamond out of that field. And we'd play the kids from what we call the projects out, they'd come, they'd get a group of kids and play us. We'd play kids from up on the hill who would come down and play us. We'd have like a regular league where we played different teams and had our neighborhood team. That used to be great. Rode our bikes or walked everywhere. Rode our bikes out to the Little League field at the time was out off Concord Street out in the projects. We rode our bikes out there and played, and we ride our bikes everywhere. I never locked the bike either. lay our bike there. We always cut grass in the winter and shovel snow or cut grass in the summer, shovel snow. I remember there's a fireworks plant blowing up. I would say 62. If you go up, I guess it's Ontario Street, extending up past going up Angel Hills, past Angel Hills on your right, past Cemetery, go to the tracks, keep on going up to the next intersection, right when they start all the new, we call them, they're not new anymore, but the newer development is right there on the left. It was back in there. And when that blew up, oh boy, the whole town shook. That was a pretty tragic event. I can't remember the fellow's name. The one general manager got killed in that, and his son was in Catholic school with us at the time. Remember that? The nuns came and took him in their office and pulled everything, figured out what was going on. I remember when they were building Peach Bottom, the first nuclear reactors, they moved them up through Havre de Grace here. They brought them up on barge, unloaded them down there at the Gilbert property. The way they moved them then, and again, they had these crawler trucks that they moved at a snail's pace. And they loaded, because they're so heavy, they didn't want to crush the roadway and crush the pipes that are underneath the road. They would have dump trucks and dump trucks and dump trucks of sand. They would spread sand along the roadway all the way from Water Street, up Erie Street, on a Juniata Street, going up 155. They would put sand on the roadway. And as the crawler trucks went over it with these reactors, they'd come behind, pick up the sand, put it back in the dump truck, go back ahead of them, dump the sand back out. It took them weeks to get those reactors up to Peach Bottom. It was really something.
About when was that?
Oh, that was in maybe early 70s. I just had to look up and see when Peach Bottom was built. Late 60s. Oh yeah, just like you talked about, there was a thing in the paper about the tunnels being built at Wiley's. I think they say every major tunnel on the East Coast, sections were built at Wiley's Shipyard. And we'd go up there. We used to go up there when they would launch one. Go up there in our boat and go up
And
there
that
and
was
watch
in
them
port, right?
in Port
Yeah.
Deposit. Yep, it's neat to watch them launch them. They just sort of take all the chocks out, and those things would just roll right into the water, and then they float them on down.
Hard to believe that happening in that narrow area
Yeah.
port.
Well, the thing with it, the whole coastline, which is now developed, that was all Wiley Shipyard. It was pretty big. There was 4 or 5 big cranes up there, and I mean, they built not only those tunnel sections, they built big barges, ship sections, and stuff like that. Their sister company was right here in Havre de Grace, where the log pond condos are, which is the original condos. That location right there was Havre de Grace Shipyard, and they built barges and smaller steel structures there.
Thanks, Charlie. If you want to hear the full interview, check out the special deal on our website. Hurry, this special ends December 15, 2016. Until our next chat, have a great week.
We hope you've enjoyed today's HDG Stories podcast. We encourage you to subscribe. We hope you will share with your friends. Till the next story, we invite you to visit us at hdgstories.com.